And Villa Park is loud.
Hello and welcome to the Villa Park podcast. It's me, Rich, and I'm back with a transfer talk little video. We haven't done these for a while. Obviously, we're not too close to the January transfer window, so the madness of transfers hasn't started yet. But one or two names are starting to, I guess, rear their heads. One or two rumours in the camp, and also a rumour that came to fruition the last international break, but doesn't seem to be going away about a player who isn't happy with life at Aston Villa. So we're going to get into all of that. We're going to talk a little bit of Ollie Watkins as well. His interview in the newspapers has gone really well, and I think people are seeing a different side to him. So we're getting a couple of my kind of thoughts on that as well as we go through the show. But we are literally that close to 2,500 subscribers, and you can help us get there. So hit the like button and hit the subscribe button, help us hit 2.5k, which would be phenomenal. And then we're well on the road to 3k, which we really want to get through as soon as possible. So make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, and yeah, you'd be doing us a huge favor in supporting us further. So let's talk Youri Tielemans. I know it's a tenuous link from Footy Insider, but we obviously had the last international break where he kind of said it hadn't gone as well for him as he anticipated since pre-season and signing for Villa. He hadn't had played as many minutes as he wanted to. He'd had a word with Unai Emery, who had told him, that he will be used as an important part of the squad. But it hasn't seemed to have changed in that period of time. He played 90 minutes against Zrinski, and that was a frustrating game for everyone. But I thought Tielemans, showed good kind of attitude to keep going, to keep progressing, and keep pushing the team on. And we obviously got the win right at the end with John McGinn's header. But, in terms of the Premier League, coming on for what? Added time, I guess 83rd minute plus added time against Wolves, coming on towards the end of the game against Palace. He hasn't really featured as much as I'm sure he would have liked, and when he has featured, hasn't really got into the game as much as Villa fans would have liked. And he's not really doing a great deal to dislodge that Kamara Louise central midfield pairing. And even when one or two rumours of Kamara being injured or other player or one or two others in that midfield being out, he's not the one who's necessarily knocking on the door to be the first replacement. So I guess he needs to do some work. He needs to decide whether he wants to really knuckle down. It's probably the first time in his career where he hasn't been that first choice player. He's played a lot of games, in his career so far at only 26, and maybe this is that challenge he's got to face and get over, and might make him a better player. But there has been rumours of another fallout with Emery, where he's saying he could be looking for a way out. I don't see that happening. I don't see that happening in January. We're obviously down to the bare bones of our squad at the moment, so I don't see that really happening in January. But would we see that as being something where we cut our losses well, not necessarily cut our losses because we didn't pay a transfer fee for him? Do we let him go at the end of the season? Now, for me, it's too early to tell. I've seen signs where he does keep that ball flowing. He does spot really good passes. I think he just needs to get more minutes under his belt and start kind of finding his place with the team. And you never know, suspensions, injuries, players can kind of have that moment where they score a goal, they grasp that opportunity, and then they become, real first choice players. So, and we have also seen, slight changes in formation from Emery in different games that might really suit Youri Tielemans. So, yes, I don't think he's happy at the moment. He seems like a player who does kind of let his feelings out there. And I'm sure he's given Unai Emery one or two problems, but Tielemans has to do his talking on the pitch. Definitely do his talking on the pitch. In terms of incomings, we've heard rumours of a young Norwich star called Jonathan Rowe, who is some rumours are abound around him, potentially Aston Villa being interested in him. He's really burst on the scene this season for Norwich. He's a young winger, he's 20 years old, and in this season in the Championship, already in 13 appearances has scored 7 goals. Six in the Championship League, and then 1 in the EFL Cup, and has really kind of hit the ground running this season. Last season was a disappointing one for him. I don't know if he was injured or whatever, but he only played 3 games, but seems to be attracting 1 or 2 scouts, and Villa being one of them. I'll just look at SofaScore in terms of his ratings. And could be, like I say, could be one more for the future in terms of Villa, and we don't really have a great deal body of work to kind of compare him to. But we've played 11 games so far this season, and starting 11, he plays over 70 minutes per game, 6 goals, as I said, in the Championship already, 24% goal conversion. He has 2.3 shots per game, so he likes to try his luck. 5 out of 15 from inside the box, and 1 from outside the box, which I believe was an absolute screamer. I think it might have been in the first game of the Championship season. He scored 3 with his left foot, 2 with his right foot, and one header. So variety there. 1 assist so far in the Championship season. And in terms of successful dribbles, 1 per game at 41%. Not too bad in ground duels, so likes to put himself about. So looks like a player who I'm sure we'll monitor over the course of the season, but could be one that we maybe look to take from the Championship. Do we do that? Do we jump ahead of the queue and maybe look at taking him in January? Do we kind of see how he gets on for the rest of the season, and then maybe there's more competition later on down the line, or is he looking for a new contract and to boost his value? So we'll wait and see on that one, but I think it's good to see potential looking at the Championship, because there's lots of talent in the Championship, and sometimes you can get it for a really good price, and players, like a young hungry players can kind of really grasp their opportunity when they come into the Premier League. So let's watch this space on him. And then Acuna, again, Marcos Acuna, we talked a lot about him in the summer. I think he could be one that we do go after in January. I think the deal was almost done in pre-season, but for whatever reason, just couldn't get it over the line with Sevilla. And we've seen Luca Dean has done admirably well with regards to playing pretty much every game at left back. And Moreno hopefully is back after the international break, but we've seen that he can be quite injury prone. So that cover at that left-sided defensive midfielder, wing back, or even left back position is needed, and also potential to bring him into that midfield area, particularly away from home. If we want a bit of bite, if we want a bit of combativeness, I think he would be a good influence and a good player to have. So I think that one could be done in January. As I say, I think it was very, very close to being done in pre-season. So watch this space on Acuna. I think again, experience as well would be really good for us. And finally, we're hoping to see Ollie Watkins get another cap for England. I think he'll probably be used in the friendly against Australia, and he's been doing the interviews with the written press particularly, and a really good interview. I believe it was in the Times, where he just talks about him kind of being quite quiet, and he likes to generally listen rather than kind of put his views or kind of always kind of talk all the time, and doesn't really get involved in the social media side of things, and kind of advertising his brand so much, and maybe that's been a little bit of a detriment to him, and not in terms of putting his name out there. But I think that's a kind of, I guess it's kind of Villa in a nutshell. I think we've talked about how the press don't really talk about us, but we just quietly go on about our business. And I think that's the same with Ollie Watkins. I know as a Villa fan base, he kind of divides opinion, or we have a lot of conversation about him. But across the footballing world is kind of seen that, yeah, he's a good player, but people don't really talk about him too much. But yeah, it's interesting to see that kind of steely determination that he's got. We've talked about him going from non-league and up the leagues with Exeter, then Brentford, then Villa, and has really kind of improved all the time, and he's always looking to improve. But one of the interesting points for me was when he talks about his, doesn't really post on social media at all, and he kind of thinks that it's stuff that he would post would be things that maybe people don't want to hear or he wouldn't be allowed to say. And that's interesting because I think the more authentic you are on things like social media, the better it comes across. And he said he doesn't want to put out things like, oh, I had a stinker today, I didn't play well enough, or the team didn't do well, or this. But I actually think that would be refreshing. I would actually think that if Ollie Watkins put stuff out like, I had a terrible game today, I wasn't good enough. But equally, when he does have a good game, he puts out there, I had a really good game today, great goal I scored. I think that would be brilliant. I honestly think players should do that more. He obviously showed a little sign of that when he talked about him getting a hat trick against Brighton and saying, well, I've done what I can. It's up to Gareth Southgate to pick me. Absolutely, put yourself out there if you've got the performances to back it up. But equally, when you haven't played well, you are honest enough to say that you haven't played well, not just these kind of standard tweets that you get your PA agency to put out for you, like actually from the heart, actually stuff that you mean. And I think that would be great. So yeah, for Watkins, I think put yourself out there a little bit more, but make sure it is authentic and keep that kind of authenticness that you've got. Authenticity, sorry, that you've got, because that could be a real strength for you. But I wish you all the best with your England career. If you hopefully play tomorrow against Australia, and then moving further and keep that form going with Villa, because we certainly need it. That's it for me for the latest news. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Tielemans, Jonathan Rowe, Marcus Acuna, Ollie Watkins, you name it. Just get involved in the comments. Thank you all for watching. We'll be back later in the week for fans forums. We might do a couple of little fun shows in terms of like best Villa 11s. We're coming up with some ideas, so stay tuned on the channel. Make sure you like and subscribe and help us on the road to 2,500. As I say, with that close, I think it's like 17, 18 subscribers more needed. So please hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Help us to get 2.5K. Thank you all for watching. And as always, remember, we all follow the Villa.